Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Well, if you're like me, you're in the middle of a very harsh stretch of weather. Here in Kansas City, we had between, about 10 to 15 inches of snow over the last 36 hours or so. And the feeders have gone crazy. And there, with that, there are also some problematic things at the feeders. And I was live yesterday and had a lot of questions about starlings because European starlings, come into feeders, especially during harsh stretches of weather. They come in for the water. They especially come in for suet if it's available, but then they end up start trying to take over all the other feeders. And I know some of you view all birds as equals and you love them all and you want to feed them all, and that is perfectly fine. This video is for those people who are not as crazy about feeding their starlings and some methods they can take to dissuade them or prevent them from clearing out their feeders or throwing all their seed out of their feeders to the ground, etc., etc. So let's start by adding the European starling to the screen. The European starling is an introduced species into this country. It is not native, and it negatively impacts a lot of native birds in the U.S. Probably one of the most famous, of course, are the eastern bluebirds. They take over their nest sites. They kill their young. If they can get into their nest cavities, purple martins, landlords have real troubles with them, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of reasons why starlings have a bad reputation among those people who are landlords for nest boxes and, of course, feeders. And so we have to live with them because they're here and there are lots of them. And at certain times of the year, luckily, they're not a major problem for you as bird feeder folks. But this time of year, they are definitely a problem. So how do we battle them? Let's see. First off, let's talk about suet because we know that suet is a major favorite of the European starling. And this is a great picture of a hairy woodpecker and a starling on a suet cage. And I love this picture for a couple of reasons, but the major reason, of course, is it shows that starling where he prefers to be, which is up on top of that suet cage and pecking down and getting to the suet. Notice of course, the hairy woodpecker is clinging to the suet cage and can easily hang upside down, all angles to get to the suet. Starlings, because of their weight, and the strength of their feet ratio, it's not very good. And so a lot of people find success with upside down suet feeders. So suspending your suet upside down and making them cling upside down. Yes, they can for brief seconds. And yes, they do get used to this and they'll poke their bills up like a hummingbird and try to knock chunks out of the suet. But it slows them down incredibly. Everyone will have to admit that because in a situation where they can get to the suet cage easily and peck and peck and peck, they can go through a suet cake in a day and destroy it. So suspending them upside down, while not a foolproof and 100% foolproof method, it will help you a lot. And chickadees and titmice and nuthatches and woodpeckers, all those birds can hang upside down and feed on that suet cage without any problem. Now, one of the tricks that I've learned over the years is sometimes it takes the birds a little getting used to find this cake being suspended upside down. So what I recommend is if you have this old, like a traditional soot cage like this one, I would hook that to the wire, the cage underneath and suspend it underneath this upside down soot cage. So you'll have a soot cake in the upside down feeder and a soot cake in that cage, and that will lead those birds to find that suspended soot cake above it. And then after they're used to it, you can take that old soot cage down and be done with it. So that is one of the methods I have found that really helps against starlings. Again, not 100%. One of the only methods I know that are truly 100% against starlings is a proper sized cage feeder. Yes, they do make caged suet feeders. They make many of the designs are very flawed, but some people will modify a cage to get their suet cage inside of it, and there are things you can do to do that. But a typical suet, a cage seed feeder like this one and like this one, the smaller birds can get in there. Anything downy, woodpecker, and smaller can access these feeders and get in and get their bird seed. But starlings cannot get in there, and that's a big advantage. The other benefit of them, of course, I'm just going to throw them in here just for a second, are the common grackle. When they come in the spring, they'll take over those seed feeders, and they cannot get into cage feeders as well. So a good caged feeder. Now it's going to eliminate blue jays. It's going to eliminate your cardinals and larger woodpeckers. Some of the woodpeckers, they can actually dart their tongue in, cling to the cage and dart their tongue in and still get seed. But for the most part, you're sacrificing your bigger birds to get rid of your starlings or thwart your starlings. And of course, you can have other feeders out as well. But this one will give the smaller birds a refuge away from the starlings that they can't hoard that seed. So a couple of different companies making the cage feeders, and those are actually good at keeping the starlings out. Now, the other part that we can use against them when we talk about the suspending the seed and their toes not being able to sustain them on soot feeders, also their weight we can work that against them in the counterbalance feeders or the weight feeders. So how this feeder works, it's got a bar in the back that's heavy, and whenever large birds or heavier birds get on that perch, it tilts it down, and that shield comes over and covers the seed. That works great against starlings because, as we all know, there's never just one starling. And so one starling can land on that feeder and eat and eat and eat. But as soon as number 2, number 3, number 4 land on that rod to try to feed 2, that bar comes down, the cover shield comes down, they all fly off. And so that can be a very, very effective one. One that I used for years in the same success is the squirrel buster feeders, which are weighted feeders, and the cage slides down and covers up the seed. And so I've seen it in my yard many times in the past. One starling lands on the cage, he starts to eat from the perch or clinging to the cage. Second one comes in, third one comes in, the whole cage slides down, they all fly off. So using their weight against them is a very successful method. And another squirrel buster feeder that works the same at the bottom, that what's called the cardinal ring. That is where the birds land on it. The starlings land on it. And the same thing, the shield comes down. And this squirrel buster feeder actually has the ability to adjust the weight. And so that you can adjust the tension of that. And so you can play with it so that if even one starling would make it go down. And yes, if you're seeing, I want 2 cardinals to be able to feed. So you do have to experiment with, because you don't want the cardinals to make it close, but you want the starlings to. So you can play with that and get just the right setting for your yard. So the starlings, again, are, oh my goodness. I know some people love them, but they can be a major pest, and I'm just trying to help you find ways to battle against them, save you some money, the loss of your bird seeds, and hopefully your other birds can get the feeders, and so they can get the seed instead of getting crowded out. Like I said, harsh weather, they're in. Their bird bath, they'll come into the bird bath. There's nothing you can do about that. You just have to change your bird bath because they'll look like a mud pit after they've been in a bird bath for a while. And so clean your water regularly. Find ways to present food, like we've talked about, upside down soot feeders, weighted feeders, cage feeders, so that starlings can't get into them. They can't waste your seed, but the other birds can. So it's a really good idea for a program, very timely here in the heart of winter. So if you like the program, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Send in ideas for future programs. Until next time, let's talk birds.